Yeah.
Oh, so thanks everyone for joining in. The main purpose of this hangout is like getting you started. And I know most of you are already know the infrastructure. You already started playing around the code, but still, um, any issues and questions you have, we'll try to resolve them. And we will have more of these hangouts. Like these are kind of like you can think about it like TA hours, but they will be more frequent. Like 3 times a week or something like that. And we will separate it out like for front end, for back end, and things like that. And then we will also have like this hackathon where people will like come in and code and then publish their stuff on server. So that would be exciting too. So just to get started, right? One of the philosophy and which is really important, like any computer science research, right? We come up with research ideas and then we build the system. So that build part is really important because that's where the engineering is all about. And all engineers are like born to build, right? So two examples and simple examples. One is Taj Mahal and another is Eiffel Tower. Think about these two examples. If somebody had an idea and they never executed it, it would have died with them, right? We never able to see like these two great creature, and we call them wonders. So goal of engineers is like building this stuff and getting it to the real world so that people can use it and evaluate it, and then that's the one way of making world a better place. So since few days, like let me share my screen. We have been talking about like this core foundation for crowd research, like one of the like micro and macro task market, another is input output transducer, then there is reputation system, uh, and then open governance. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we have been building upon it like since like last 8 to 9 weeks. Now we are almost reached to the point where we need to kind of zoom in and try to build the system around it. And since last few weeks, we have created infrastructure that will allow us to go ahead and bring these ideas to real world. So if you're joining in Hangouts on Wednesday and Tuesday, sorry, on Monday, if you're not joining in, please dial in. There is great discussion going on about it. If you're on Slack, please get involved into that. There are really cool ideas people are sharing, and we can use those ideas to actually build the system. So that is a really exciting thing happening. So once you come to this document, it gives you an idea about like what we have done so far. And quickly zoom through this, like you can read about research and then try to kind of emerge from that research to engineering. And in engineering, one thing is like great talk from Peter Norvig. Thanks Rajan for organizing that, and I think it was organized at the right time because he mentioned two things: building stuff that matters, and research and engineering can go together. It's one thing, it's not separate things. So that's what we will do here, right? So first thing is setting up your environment. So ask any questions you had while setting up stuff. The local environment is very important, like whatever systems you are using, because you're going to write code there. And it has to be stable, it has to be synced with what other people are using. And great place to start is this README file that we have created, and you can see it on the Git, or you can like get it on like in your repository, and it will give you the all the details, step-by-step detail, like what you need to do, which database you have to install, and how to like activate your local environment using virtual env and all those things. What are the dependent packages you need to install? And now once you have everything ready, you can dump the data. So data is created for you. You don't need to like web scrap and do all those things. That is already been taken care of. So you can directly start running the system. If you're working on some new module, you might need to create new data and things like that. I have explained how to create that. So README file is really important part to get started. and setting up your local environment. Uh, Another thing about the file is whenever you see something is missing, raise a pull request. We will review it, and if that is a genuine pull request, we will add that and update the file. Or just ping us on Slack or anywhere, we'll try to update that file, because that file is kind of a backbone of getting started. Uh, Once you go into the file, we'll walk you through the current folder structure, like how backend is divided, how frontend is divided, where the admin pages are. To read about the system, there is enough documentation available. You can either look at the data model, you can look at the front-end mockups, you can look how we are using the Git, and what's our vision, like where are we heading with this. There are, at the moment, there is one active branch which is called develop 2. We are in the process of creating 3 branches. One is called develop, where all the development will take place. So whatever you are developing, that's the current branch. Once you do the development, you submit your code. That code goes to testing, and then it goes to staging. Like that is a pre-production stage. And then it released to the production. That is the master branch that we already have in place. So that's the basic repository structure, like development, then staging, and then from there going to production. And if you have any question, never hesitate to reach out to DRIs or me or anyone on Slack or through email or any communication channel. There is a separate page created called FAQ. Add your question there, somebody will jump in and answer. And I will try to add as much as questions there so that we will have references of all the questions. Now, one big question, like all of you ask, like, okay, so where to start, what to work on, right? And yes, so our main goal is start small and then build upon it. Once we start small, we have like complete foundation ready, and then we can fly. Like, but we are still taking off. So let's take off carefully. Let's build on the foundation, and then once we reach to certain altitude, we will build cool features like visualization, analytics, machine learning, and all those things. But for that, we have to think about, okay, I need to build like machine learning algorithms for recommendation system. What kind of data I'm gonna need? How I'm gonna store that data? From where I can get that data? And those decisions we are going to make now, and they're gonna affect the future system. They're gonna affect the scalability of that system. So whenever you're building something, think about long-term big picture, and then zoom into the small kind of element that is really required to build that foundation. So here are different tags we have created. You can see tasks which are unassigned. You can click on them, and it will take you to the GitHub. You will look at the issues. Those are unassigned issues. So like say single sign-on option, using social media accounts, like people should be able to sign in using their Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter account. So this is a feature which we call like nice to have feature, but that is unassigned. So somebody can claim it, like they can say, oh, I want to work on it because I find it really cool idea or something like that. And they assign it themselves, they add respective DRI's names, and immediately all the DRI get the notification through email. And everybody on the repository, they all get the email about it. So that's the one way to choose the task. Another category is open tasks, which are critical. And one more task where you're working on something, but you need help, or you think you are overburdening yourself, you need one more person on the project or 2 more people on the project. So at that time, what you're going to do is you're going to just raise this need backup flag. So it's just a label that you're going to add, and immediately other people will get the notification. If they don't get, they don't respond, reach out to all the DRIs or reach out to me. I will make sure that you are like getting all the help you need. So don't worry about that logistic part. Other part to work on is like you create new requests. Like you come up, Rajan has shared this interesting document where you can add your ideas, right? So one is like building core foundation, other is like keep coming up with free mind and giving full opportunity for your creative mind to build the system. This is a platform where like everybody has all the freedom to come up with ideas and then build the stuff on that, right? So this is the place where you will like create feature request, the new task, and then you will say please prioritize. So what will happen is like once you say please prioritize, we'll look at the focus and we'll add that and integrate that into the current focus, so that we will be still be focusing on the core foundations, but we are also expanding with the small ideas and enhancing the system across it. Uh, Whenever you're writing the description, add this tag at and then guy of name of the person. What that will do is like it will again associate DRIs to that particular issue, and they will be responsible for helping you out, coding with you, and making sure that release is happening. So those are the people you will reach out for help. Those are the people, if you have any issues, you will talk to. And if they are not responding, you go to one person up above that or something like that. You talk to Rajan, you talk to me, and all of us are here to help each other. So we'll make sure you're getting help in whatever manner you need. Third thing is you come up with something crazy feature like dark horse idea, right? And you write about it on the GitHub. You create an issue, and then you label it as nice to have and add it as others tag and assign it to me, assign it to Rajan. Again, the same process will happen. Like we'll discuss it and we'll see like, okay, where are we, and we can prioritize it. The main thing here is like we don't want to lose our attention from like core foundation. We want to be very focused on that, like starting small, but at the same time we want people to be creative. We want them to explore their ideas, and we want them to like build stuff that they are passionate about. And that's how these different categories comes in. So if you go on Git, you will see these different labels, and they are kind of like breaking down the task at granular level, the way the system is designed. So first is, let's say, design, right? So design part, if you are passionate about, let's say, graphics, you want to contribute from graphics perspective, and then there is a label called like graphics and icon creation. You can raise an issue like I want to design logo for the system, and there will be the issue that you can create, okay, design a logo for the system, these are the requirements, and this is what is expected, and it assign it to yourself. Of if you want to design like information flow, so you can build like, okay, this is the information flow, this should happen when user comes to the website, this should be the next page, and so on. Same for all the design parts. Then design is integrated with something called Angular, which is like JavaScript framework. So that's where like more programming kind of part starts, and from there we go to like core systems like backend and all that part, like security or deployment process or data model creation. And I think most of you were already part of that, like data model creation and all those parts. But now it's not only just data model creation, but once you create that data model, you create API to expose that data to front end, so that you're working on a feature that you can say, yes, I designed this API that allows requester ranking to be exposed to any other source, like whether it's a front end or either external source, and so on. So real quick about this release cycle, you can read about it on the wiki. Mostly after our Saturday meeting, we're going to start the development cycle. That will be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's going to be very small development cycle, like task which you can finish in like 3-4 hours, nothing bigger than that. And we'll try to break it down as smaller as possible. We will going to submit it by Thursday so that people can.
How are you going to break this down? I don't get it.
Yeah, so we already know like features we're going to develop. Like let's say requester dashboard. Now on requester dashboard, we have functionality on front end, like let's say designing CSS for it, then designing the like metaphors for it, designing the information flow. So those tasks go into design part, and different people will take those tasks. Then from front end, we're going to send the data using Angular. Now for Angular, we need somebody who will write services, somebody who will write controller, and we already have the routes in place. Then once we know that, okay, these people are writing services and controller, we have people at backend, right, who will write API to consume that data or produce data to front end. So one person will write views, and other person will look at and say, okay, I can write a data model, and then other person can write like serialization for that. So those three parts are covered. And then we have people at backend, they will take care of like database migration and all those kind of parts. So like writing a model, we already have the models in place. So only thing you need to think about is, okay, how can I expand existing models? Or if I want to build a new model, what will be the direction? And at the moment, I think we have most of the models which are very much mature, that you don't need like extensive development, like spending 3 weeks to like do brainstorming and all those things, because most of the models are very focused, and they are easy to expand. So I think
And
we
and
have
all
the
the
diagram.
basic things are already on the GitHub, right?
Yeah, everything is on Git, and we
So
have this
people
diagram
can
that
just
also.
go to GitHub, look at what they want to do, and claim that they'll be working on that, and then this is the cycle they'll be working on.
Exactly. So that's the one part of it. Second part of is like I'm already creating, and Durim is creating to some of the classes. Like, okay, so this is the functionality we are targeting for, like, let's say end of this month, and this is the breakdown for that. And we are going to raise the issues, and those issues will be unassigned. So whoever is picking up right now, we can assign it to them. Whatever is unassigned, so new people come and they say, okay, what should I work on? I'm interested into, like, let's say Angular controllers. I want to write controller for let's say requester ranking. So that will be already on the issue list. So they will go there and they will choose that. They will assign it to themselves, and then we will work with them to get that done. So that's the model we are trying to follow. And actually, we are already doing that. Like part of that, we already started doing it. Like for example, Aditi and her team, like they started looking at like front end. Like we have this registration now. At the moment, registration is just you register with your name and your city and all those things. But we want to create multi-layer registration. Like you not only come and submit your name and all those things, but when you say next, you go and submit your, okay, what is your SSN or all those details, so that we can do the authentication checks and all those part. So they are actually started designing the front end part for that. Like, okay, you click next, and then you will have one more view and another view and stuff like that. Megha and Asmita, they started working on like backend part where they can expose the data to front end. So they're kind of like writing this API that will provide workers data to front end. Sorush and Milad, they started picking up on search part, right? Like I build a code and then they just enhanced it. So we kind of experimented with this, and looks like it is kind of like promising. It's just we need to sometimes give a little time to learn these frameworks, which are a little bit complex, but that's why we are here. Like we are here to help, and as much as we can, like if whatever issues you have, you don't need to stop. You just need to reach out. So never feel like you're troubling anybody by asking question. No. Whenever in trouble, raise a flag and ask about the question, because it's never late for asking questions. So feel free to do that. Uh, so yeah, I mean that's the kind of one of the release cycle. You raise a pull request for every code you check in, and make sure that pull request is generated by you, because we want to make sure that you get proper credit for what you're submitting. So when you submit the code under your name, your name goes into GitHub. So that's very important part to remember. And Saturday is a demo day, so whenever we will have our meeting, we will demo. And this is a really important part. Like we have to demo every week, and we should not like fail like demoing. Like it's a really important part of like this entire process. If it can't demo, then something is wrong somewhere. So we have to find that out. Again, like if you need help, it's written here, raise the flag, need help or need backup resource. There are some coding guidelines that, I mean, people should follow, and if you can learn about it on your own pace. There are collaboration guidelines. Again, it's like gentleman's protocol, and you can read about it. So there is this interesting example, Hello World tutorial, and what it will give you opportunity to like kind of go through process of raising this pull request and getting familiar with the GitHub if you are not used it before. So I would suggest go through that, create your page, and then add whatever module you are working on to that page. So that will be the integral part of the system, and then you can write it like, okay, I'm working on, let's say, request a dashboard, or I'm working on like something at backend side, or I'm working on like security feature. So you can add information about you the way you are contributing. So that's all the details are here. And then again, like as I mentioned, system architecture and detailed stuff you can read here. If you have questions, please reach out. And we have data model. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much you need to get started. But actual fun begins when you jump into the code, right? So we can do that now. What we will do is like we'll walk you through from one of the examples, from front end to back end. So you will know exactly how system is working. And one basic thing is to understand any complex system, like whether it's in aerospace engineering or whether it's in like algorithmic trading, the main thing is flow with the data. Think about from where you're getting the data, how it is flowing through the system, and where it is going. And if you follow that flow, you are good enough to understand like what's happening. Then you will automatically get exposed to different components of the system. So we can walk through this, but before that, Durim, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything.
And anybody else have questions? Okay, so we'll go ahead and try to kind of like give overview about like, okay, how everything is organized. So let me share my screen again.
Neil, do Aditya and Naman want to join? I think they pinged you.
Oh.
So
Oh.
I have to leave now. But I think because we are already at max capacity, so once I leave, Aditya or Naman might be able to join. They have.
Okay. Rajan, do you have any other questions?
No, I think this is very good. One thing we are very interested in taking forward is the ownership of tasks.
Yes.
So imagine why people contribute to open source projects like Hadoop or any other projects. Like one of the interesting aspects is the motivation to take ownership of certain pieces and say like, yes, I made this contribution of a patch, and now everybody in the world is sort of using this thing, which where I had a really important contribution. And so you feel like besides learning how to do research, besides getting recommendation letters as part of this program, besides co-authoring papers, what else can you actually put a tag on which is just yours, sort of? And so I feel like because we have so many tasks on table right now which needs to be achieved, if people can take a claim, take a lock on that and actually accomplish that, even if it's a small piece, like you can add that label in your profile. And you know what, like Wikipedia also, our Media Wiki website also provides a profile where you can like talk more about yourself. And so later on, like this website will exist, and so you can always use that as something in your resume where you can showcase at what parts you contributed. So I feel like it's really important that we start taking ownership of pieces, even if it's a small piece. That's how you might want to start with. And I feel like for many people, this whole large document was overwhelming. So that's why me and Neil were chatting about it. And I think this meeting came out of as a result of that discussion, where when the summer batch joins us, they get to see a very quick overview of like how to actually read this document, what are the different components, and how to actually get something running on their computers. And I think that's what Neil is going to start next. But yeah, I mean, I really, really like it. This is helping us move in the right direction. So yeah, thanks, Neil.
No, thanks to everybody. I mean, like we all are friends, we all here to contribute, and we all want to make this platform a successful platform. And this is going to change lives of people. So let's stick to it, and let's take a lot of pride in what we are doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can. All right, then we can jump into the code. Uh,
Did you invite the people who pinged you?
oh, I think so. So let me try. So it is full.
No, actually, so I'll be leaving, so I think you can invite them now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right.
All
All
right. Thanks,
right.
Rajan. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. I'll see you in morning.
Yeah, sure. It's already morning.
Bye.
Cool. I think who is there? Aditi, can you join? Okay, I have shared the link for Aditi, Naman, and I think Arushi. Oh, okay, cool. So, all right then. So now it's more about your questions, right? Like I know a lot of you have facing problem like either it's an installation or it's something else. So let's do that. Let's take off my here. Let me see what you guys seeing. Okay, so what
Maybe
are
we
we
can take
doing
some
here? And most
questions.
important part is looking at folder structure, right? Like, so what I would suggest is like, can you guys see left hand corner, this part where mouse is moving? Okay, let me do one more thing. Let me do this. And I will bring it to the center. Okay, right. So what this tells us is like how the project is organized, right? Like any system. Let me know if you guys can't see it. I'll try to zoom in, but I think that's all I can do. Um, so once you complete your installation, as I've seen, like major problems people are facing are um, either with the Postgres SQL, they are not able to configure their database. If you're working on front end, don't worry about if Postgres is giving you errors and you can't fix it, don't worry about it. Switch to other database. Switch to SQLite if you're on front end. Um, and then once you get time, figure out what's going on with the system or talk to us. We will try to fix whatever error you guys are getting. Okay. So that's the one thing. Second thing is if you confused about which Angular version we are using 1.13. So it's written on the README. If not, we can update that. Third one is more how to dump the data. So from where to get the data. Uh, most of the time, either we generate it manually, but I think we will host the site very soon so that people will start registering and we will automatically get the data. So we don't need to like worry about finding data for like registering people and all those things. So for testing purpose, just create 5 records and that should be good. And there is enough data created, I think, that you can use for now. So what I will do is I will try to walk you through front end and back end, and also Durim will walk you through some of those stuff. So on front end side, right? If you take a model view controller like this MVC architecture, which has become really popular back in the days, where you have model, which is generating data, you have view, which is presenting data, and controller, which is kind of like talking between models and views. In recent days, yes, that architecture is still followed, but a lot of new web frameworks came in, and things have become like more suitable for rapid development. On front end part, when you're looking at something called, okay, these templates and what are these JS files and what is this bootstrap, and you're getting freaked out, or there's too many things there. Yes, there are too many things, but it's important to understand why they exist, right? So we are using Angular as a front-end JavaScript framework, and how that works and what purpose that serves, right? So if you look at all the static files here, your front end actually starts here. If you're working on front end, you're more concerned about this part and everything below that. Then you have your bower component, which is just the package managing. You have your CSS for styling. You have your media file like images and static files. Then you have your templates. Templates are views, your HTML views that you see. Okay, static HTML page. Now that static HTML page needs to talk to somebody to get the data, right? Who is doing that? So Angular allows you to differentiate and create different controllers and services and factories, which can talk to backend, get the data, and update the view. So controllers can actually manage what's happening on the view, what kind of data needs to be provided, and all those things. So in your JS folder, you will see all those controllers and all those services related to the particular app that you're working on or particular feature that you're working on. So that's the broader overview of like, there is a lot to it, there is more to it. We can walk through like step by step, but if you look at just a folder structure, that's how folder is organized, and there's nothing fancy about it. At the back end, same way, like we have serializers, then validators to validate the data. We have view sets, which is like clubbing different classes together into one class. And in CSV folder, we have admin like settings.py, URL mapping, and all those things. Settings.py, I would suggest don't touch it unless you talk to like Durim or me or somebody else, because that is there is a rare occasion, unless and until you are working on like something system related stuff, you probably not need to touch it, because that might screw up like entire setup. So how to start, right? So think about data part again, and let's take example. Actually, let's see demo site. And let me know if you guys can see it. So this is our new interface that all of you must have downloaded the code and started getting up. It's still in progress. There is a lot to be done here, but we are progressing. We are getting there. So let's say if you go to register, you kind of like, now I am already registered, so it takes me like to the main page. Like that is my requester dashboard, right? On this dashboard, I can see all the stuff which is related to my task. After this, if I want to search the task, I can see it, and I'm getting this data. Somebody is providing this data to me, right? So this HTML is static. There's nothing fancy happening there. There are these controls and all those things, but I'm getting data from somewhere. So the Angular controller, which manages to talk to backend, and backend is nothing but our REST API to get this data. So we're going to raise a request to get the data. Once we have the data, we're going to find out, okay, how to display. And that's the basic flow about it. And then searching tasks and having your own task portfolio and things like that. So we can do like more fancy stuff, but architecture remains very same. There's not much changes around it. So let's see how this data is getting published here. So as I said, there are static pages that you can see into your like templates folder. And one thing to understand is like the concept of routes. So Angular has a module, and think about module as a container for all of your objects, right? And in that container, you can tell where to go in the routes. So let's say I have ranking, and I'm highlighting it here. Now, this route actually tells, okay, this is a template URL. If somebody hits the ranking, this is a template URL you have to go to. So static template ranking request to rank HTML, that's the page we saw, the static page, right? Now we have to populate the data, and that data is coming from controller, but we don't know which controller to go to. So we register controller here. So we know controller and ranking controller. So we have two information now. We need that required to display the data on front end. Now this controller talks to front end using something called scope, and I will let you guys figure out what the scope is, and then you will read about it, and that's a good exercise to like kind of get familiar with this thing. Now we know where the ranking controller is and what controller we'll need when somebody executes this web page. So we go to the controller. So we go to ranking in our JavaScript file. We look at the controllers and we look at this code, right? So this still needs the services. There's services, we just added it. So we'll publish that. So there's something called dependency injection, and the name looks scary, but it's nothing fancy. What it does is it takes the other modules and you can just inject them into your existing app, and that's all it is doing. So think about it like you're just importing libraries, and that's it. That's technically not accurate description, but that's somewhere close to it. Then you just declare your controller here. You call it some ranking app dot controller, and you say ranking controller, and you define the API from where you're going to get the data. So if you're working on front end, your job is to get the data from backend using this API, or post the data to backend using another API. Now backend people, they will say, okay, what data you need? And you're going to say, oh, I'm working on requester dashboard. I need XYZ. Can you expose it? And backend guy will say, okay, this is the API, and that will give you the required data. And you're going to write controller, you're going to write services, and keep the code modular to get that data. So you can see like, okay, we are calling for the data, we're getting it, and then we are assigning it using the scope. And then if you look at the HTML code, you will see something called expressions in that code. And then what does expression do is like you see the scope object, that's the communication between that view and this controller. So now we know how static view is working, we know how controller is working, and we know how data is moving from these two parts. Now we can go back to the backend and see how data is coming from there. So one thing which is really important here is this REST API, and how are we calling that? So most of you actually worked on data models, and you created these data models, and Durim help you guys to like get started with it, right? So you see here there is a model class called requester ranking, right? So at the moment we are saying, okay, requester name is stored, their payment rank is stored, fare rank is stored, and how long they take and stuff like that, right? So this data is actually real data coming from a forum called Turkopton, and we build this class based on that data. But this class can extend. Like tomorrow somebody says we want to add more criteria, you can go ahead and add it there, right? The question is how to expose it to the front end. So let's say we have data either in database or we are dumping it from outside. Then once we have this, it's what this is doing. There's something called ORM. The data is mapped from here to Python data types. And what we need to do is we need to find out appropriate format so that the data will travel from backend to front end. And appropriate format here is JSON format, the JSON file structure that we are using. So one thing, like, read about JSON format if you're not familiar with it. Like most of you must have worked with XML. JSON is much more lightweight version of it. And once you convert data from here to Python data type, how to convert it to JSON. And REST API actually helps you to do that. So you will see these serializers and you will see this view set. So these are the two important things where, let's say now we want to go to requester, you see this serializer. What that does is it takes that class and it's just creating a wrapper around it to expose the data into different file format. And similarly, you can look at the view sets. What it is doing, all classes related to requester, it is putting it together. And that's pretty much it. Now, how to access this data and how to expose it to the front end? As I said, the URL, and that URL is listed into your url.py file. Again, I would say if you're working with backend, you can edit it here, but talk to Durim or send out email to DRIs, and they will help you if you face any questions here or any doubts. So how does this data look like, right? So if you see here, task data.
That would be API module.
Yeah. Oh, we had it. Okay, so as I said, like data is coming in. Let me maximize this, right? This is JSON format on which data is getting converted. So you can see like what are the methods you can use, like get, post, and so on. The data is like, okay, what is the ID, requester name, and all those things, the same things that we saw in data model. And you have this URL. And this is the URL, same URL we saw into your controller. So controller knows where to go when it needs data. So the question is what data you need. And so if you're working on front end, you have to define, okay, I need this. Then backend guys will come in and they will add new things to data model. They will expose that data using the same API. So somebody at backend did this, and somebody at front end picked up this and built the front end on that. And that's the basic module we are doing. There is much more to it, but let's keep something suspense and let you guys go and play around with it, and then you will come up with like questions and things, and we'll answer them. So that's the basic flow at the moment. So Durim, do you want to add more to it?
First, we could ask if anyone has questions.
Yeah.
So we create the data in the JSON format, and then using the REST API, we expose it to the front, right? Or do we use that REST API to convert whatever data we have to the JSON format?
So currently what we are doing is like we are using something called fixture. So fixture allows us to automatically generate the data. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
Or it allows us to like you manually create the data and dump it into the memory.
Fixture.
Yeah. So what we are doing is we are already creating data into JSON format and dumping it in. However, once we connect it to the database, it will be completely different. Then we're not dumping in data from outside. We're going to have our own data source, right? And what's going to happen is with ORM, PostgreSQL, and Django ORM model, they know how to communicate with each other. And from there, your data is not directly converted into JSON. First, it's converted into Python data type, right?
Okay.
And from Python data type, what REST API does is it converts into JSON, and
All
then
right.
it starts flowing from there.
Okay.
Cool. Any other question? Okay, cool. So Durim, do you want to add a few more things here?
Yeah, sure. So the idea is like both the front end and the back end are pretty much separated, and you don't need them to work together until you want them to. So you can work on the back end, you can create your REST API, you can create everything, and you can test it with this browsable API that Neil was showing you last time. And only when the guys from the front end need it, they can link it to the front end.
Yeah, so code is written in a way that all the modules are very separate of each other. They are not dependent. Uh, but I would highly recommend, like even you're working on front end, uh, try to install everything. Try to go through each component of the system, because most of the time we think like, okay, we are working on front end. My theory is, if you're working on any engineering project, you should at least know the basics. Not in detail, like you don't want to work on backend, it's fine, but at least try to understand like how this data is getting created. What are the difficulties people are facing while creating the data? And that will give you very different perspective in real world, right? Like real world companies are like, they have like different departments, people are working in different departments, and a lot of times there are logistic issues like we don't know why they are not providing data or why they are not doing this and all those things. So once you start actually looking at system as a whole, you will get good picture of like, okay, how these things fit together, rather than staying isolated out of it. So try to understand big picture, try to zoom in as much as you can. And as I said, like there are people who will help you to like either get you started, or like if you have questions, they will direct you in right direction. Now, what not to ask for, right? Uh, Sometimes people will not give you direct answers, and that's for a good reason, because if I tell you like what scope object is, then you know it, but that's not fun, right? Like, why don't we go and find out ourselves like what scope object is? Like, we're curious about it, like how it kind of like binds this controller and view together. So go and explore that, right? See what else you find. And we want to encourage that, like not just provide answers, but like give opportunity to like explore and find more knowledge and share that knowledge with other people in the same way. So feel free to collaborate, feel free to talk to new people. Like there is no one team now. We are one team. Like it's not like I have this team, I have that team. We are one team. We are working towards common goal. And so talk to many people and talk to as much as like make new friends. So that's basically it. So anything else you want to add, dude?
No, unless the guys want to go deeper to examples or something.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to know something more?
Any questions? Anything about the process, about the infrastructure, about technologies, um, about learning resources or stuff like that?
I think.
Cool. Uh, oh, wait. Manan is asking, has the requester backend been completed? It's in progress. So we're still working on some of the part. We're still expanding it. There are few people, like Kushal is working on one of the part. Uh, so it's never gonna be complete. And one thing to understand here is like we're building things from scratch, right? And most of the times there will be little fumblance, there will be little bit hitchhiking here and there. So we have to kind of like come up with uh, solution where, okay, something is pending. If we don't have resources and I have free cycle, can I jump on and help there? So that's a great attitude, because you're not only learning new things, but you're also helping out each other, talking to new people, meeting new people, and trying to understand what they're working on. So that's a great thing. So try to reach out to DRIs as much as you can, and if they don't respond, send out an email, talk to me, talk to Rajan, or talk to Durim. Uh, we are all here to help you. And initially you will find it a little difficult. It's okay. I mean, all these things are new, and it takes time to pick up things, so it's fine. Like, but stick to it. Like all hard things, they start slowly. So don't give up, stick to it, and ask for help. That's pretty much from my end. Yeah. Megha, you have questions?
None at the moment. I keep asking you anyway. So
No, yeah, that's good. So we will build all these things. Like we are looking for a lot of enhancement. Like we have good infrastructure now, like
yep,
all machine learning part and artificial intelligence and all those things, but we need data for that, right? We have to
sure.
have a fundamental foundation for that,
Yep,
like visualization and including like D3 and all those libraries. We already started, like I started playing around it, started writing code around it, but there will be a time when we can like pull that in,
yep,
and then have like full-fledged system as we envision. But
sure.
right now it's like we are constructing this building,
Yep.
and
We need
once we have, then we'll add like curtains and all those things to that. So
yeah, makes sense.
cool. All right, then. Another thing I would highly recommend you guys, that Professor Bernstein, he's spending a lot of time on like on Monday and Wednesday. So there is a hangout which goes on discussing this research foundation, and I will highly encourage you guys to like join those, because it's like unique opportunity to like talk to different people who are doing research, and you guys are doing research too. So why not jump into those if you have time?
What
Um,
time does that hangouts
I think it's usually
take?
7:30, 7:30 PST.
See.
So it's 10:30 my time, 10:30 New York time. Uh, so I don't know whether it's a good time for you guys, but
Yep.
um,
That would be around 6 a.m. So not bad actually.
yeah. So if you guys can dial in, do that. I
Sure.
mean, it's really great session. Like a lot of times, it's amazing the ideas people share and discussions. So you will enjoy it. One more thing I wanted to ask you guys is like, if we do these hangouts, let us know what you expect. Okay, so we will tailor it more towards what you want rather than we keep talking, uh, because I want to make this very helpful for you people, and we can talk like for days and days, and that not gonna solve the problem. So what we want to do is like, okay, you participate and we'll try to help, or something like that. You talk more, and from next time, like you build something, you talk about it. Like somebody's working on design, he will talk about it. Or somebody's creating like request a dashboard, he will say, okay, what challenges he faced, how did he overcome those challenges, and all those things. Okay,
Okay.
so think about it, and let us know what you think, and we can have this multiple times, like maybe 3 times a week or something like that.
Yeah. Or if you're having
So
problems with one of the frameworks, then just
yeah,
ask. We can have a session on Angular. We can have a session on REST framework
yeah,
and all that. Okay.
cool. All right, then I will stop the broadcast, and thank you all for dialing in. And whoever is like couldn't join the panel, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.